When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the review of Raw with
Jason Agnew
and Wai Ting, the A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Review of Raw for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the
Jason Agnew.
And Wai take the mic.
Welcome everybody to Review of Raw and the big news, big news off the top. We might as well discuss it. Yes, a new father is John Pollock. So for those of you who are not aware, that's right. That is the reason why John is not on the show. That's the reason why he's been away for the past several weeks. He has had a little baby. And so we want to welcome Max Pollock into this world. And what an addition of Raw to commemorate that experience. And who better to do that with me than my son, Jason Agnew.
I think you should have had Pollock's baby co-host this with you.
I would love for
That'd be great.
a child's experience of this.
Yeah. It's our very own, it's like the law's very own King Maxwell.
You can guarantee this kid will have quite the collection of wrestling shirts growing up. If not from his father, probably from the rest of us buying them for him. Yes, Court Bauer was supposed to join us, of course, but due to a scheduling conflict, we'll have to have him on another time. But thank you, Jay, for coming in last minute to discuss this episode, because I don't know if I could have talked about all this stuff by myself.
You could have, Wai. You could have just talk. I mean, there isn't that much to talk about. That's, I think, the main, what we're really getting out of this edition of Raw is it was built up and it was promoted. And I think a lot of people were curious and excited tonight. But when it came right down to it, I've already received, and I haven't looked at the feedback thread, but just personally via Facebook, I've received 2 separate messages of like, oh, that's it? That's what we're getting after all that hype? Because this was a long storyline leading up to this, and the big push at the end of last week as well.
That is true. Well, let's just talk about it off the bat. Yes, the other baby news coming out of this edition of Review Raw, Kurt Angle's son is Jason Jordan. And so this reveal, do you think is satisfying?
I thought it was... I don't know. I said this on the Law last night. I don't care for Kurt Angle's character that he's playing this GM role. I think he's just everything that he's done since he's come back with the basically audition reel speech that he did, and he's just so happy to be back. I do find, and I don't remember Kurt Angle's speech patterns to be so poor when he was in the WWE previously. Do you? Sorry, dare I say WWE?
Certainly not. I mean, you even saw it from the documentary. Like, you watch his old clips. He didn't seem to have any type of speech impediment. Mm-hmm. But I don't even recall it being like this in TNA. So, but I'm hesitant to like criticize it too much because I have a feeling it probably is in some way related to whatever health issues or addiction problems he's had.
Possibly. It could very well be that, or concussions and such as well. I mean, all of these things, you get your head knocked around a few times, it can, it can take its toll on you. So, I mean, there's a lot of hype that went up to this, and then they did that segment in the ring together, and it was Jordan didn't even speak. And then they pushed towards this interview afterwards. I mean, the thing itself in the ring, though, I think I was left wanting more, but also not wanting any of it at the same time. Does that make sense?
It does. And maybe what you mean is that you don't like the angle.
I hate it. I'm not interested in going back to these. Mouth brought up a point on the Law last night. He sees a few angles now going back to Attitude Era stuff. I mean, you had the vehicular homicide attempt 2 weeks ago, which is very Attitude Era, and you have an illegitimate son, which is it's clear like it's not real. They do so many things with family bloodlines, like the Ortons and such, and that's real. It's real, but then you make it I think this is the real problem I have. So, you just had Bob Orton appear with Randy, and there's a father and son thing. You played up in the past the Dusty Rhodes with Cody and Goldust angle from a couple years ago when they won that tag match was absolutely incredible. And because you've done bloodlines that are real, now you're doing something that's fake. And we all know wrestling is fake and scripted, but you take from the real characters. And this is just my suspension of disbelief is blown up for this. And I know it's fake, and I'm staring at it, and I know that they're not really related. So why are they doing this?
Well, I mean, I feel like much like the Enzo and Cass breakup and that whole mystery, they seem to be aiming for kind of episodic teases that carry on throughout the weeks. And I suppose this is one of the easier ways that you can do that by teasing.
Is this easy? Is this really easy way?
It didn't take them any effort. It was just, months of and weeks of Kurt Angle appearing on his phone, teasing this mystery. What is it? What is it? And now you have a reveal of, the Jerry Springer level proportions that it kind of fits, with the whole... with the Enzo and Cass mystery,
it's different. So what do you do with Jason Jordan when this angle becomes tired?
Well, he's a single star, I assume.
I know, but I understand that. But then he's always Kurt Angle's son. Like, how do you get out of this angle?
Why do you have to get out of it?
Well, because it becomes a bit of an albatross that it's there and it's just hanging above him forever. And if it doesn't go well, he's always going to be, they're just going to disregard it and forget it.
Not necessarily. I suppose he'll just be Kurt Angle's son who happens to be a wrestler. Maybe Kurt Angle will disappear, or maybe they'll, swerve us at the end and say Kurt Angle actually wasn't the father. Do a Vince McMahon Hornswoggle deal.
Great, because what's what we want to reflect on is that angle.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to defend this. I don't know if it's necessarily something that will result in a great push for Jason Jordan, but I could see why they did it. It was for the weeks of suspense that they did manage to get people talking.
So, but along with that, and Renee asked this question when they did the interview afterwards, when she asked, because it left me, after the segment of them in the ring together, it left me asking, what was Angle so concerned about? This wasn't a child that he had an extramarital affair, and then from that extramarital affair came a child that he didn't know about, or a child that he abandoned. This was before he was married in storyline, you don't mention Karen, but like even before that, this was a child that he had that he didn't know about. He really did nothing wrong in the whole turn of events. So what was he worried about? How could this ruin him?
Didn't like Arnold have like one of these things? Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Arnold's thing, from what I remember off the top of my head, was he was cheating on his wife with the baby's nanny.
I suppose we don't know how conservative Kurt's wife is. I don't know. I don't know, Jay.
You're throwing your... I'm just trying to analyze.
This is pro wrestling. This is pro wrestling here, okay? Sometimes people have illegitimate children, and they find out that they work in the same company with them several years later in the same industry.
You're right, Wai. You're right. It makes total sense.
Let's get into the show. Raw is from Nashville, Tennessee. And to start off the show, Dean Ambrose comes out carrying a steel chair. He's named the steel chair Steely Dan. He says he and Steely Dan are both a little bent out of shape because of The Miz last week. Calls out The Miz and the Miztourage, but instead who comes out but Seth Rollins? Seth asks Dean, brother, if you'll be asked his brother Dean if he'll be standing in his way or by his side when he takes it to The Miz. The people start chanting yes. Dean says his brothers were in the Shield. And you? I don't know you. Seth says that was 3 years ago. I'm sorry. He says he's been regretting it ever since. Seth says he even remembers Dean cashing in the Money in the Bank on him to win his first title, but he's moved on. Why can't Dean let things go? Seth says he'll let his actions speak for him, turns around and asks Dean to hit him with the steel chair. Dean hesitates, looks like he's about to, but then decides to throw the chair to the floor. Miz comes out with the Miz-tourage. They say, what a scene. Miz says he's got a welcoming party planned for Dean, and the heels surround the ring, each grabbing steel chairs. Rollins and Ambrose are surrounded inside, weaponless, and then some in the crowd actually start chanting for Roman.
Like many of them do. Mm-hmm. There's a significant chant for Roman here.
Well, we've learned that people might hate Roman Reigns, but people like Roman Reigns when he's a part of the Shield. And I could almost say the same for all three of the Shield members at this point.
Yep.
I feel like all three of them are kind of rather in an unpopular phase of their careers. So anyway, here, let's finish the segment. The faces attack, but they're quickly beaten down by the heels with their steel chairs. Miz and the Miz-tourage stand tall as Rollins and Ambrose are laid out. What did you think?
Yeah, I have talked about this angle on the law in regards to the fact that the Shield, if you're going to do a Shield reunion, it has to be three of them. It has to be all of them. I mean, Roman is a key element to this, and he's involved in his own thing, and he's not coming out here, and I don't see him getting involved in this angle because the reuniting of the Shield to face the Miz-tourage is essentially a complete waste. So they're trying to make some magic out of Ambrose and Rollins, and it's not working. These two are like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Like, they are not good together. And then, I mean, they're playing this, we were buddies, maybe we're buddies again. We don't know how our friendship is going to go. We don't really trust each other. It's the tag team partners that don't trust each other. And we've seen this played out over and over again. I didn't care for this at all, and I don't know why they're doing it when they know Roman is unavailable. And then, you know, they're going to have a match, and if that's the case, then why don't you add a third here as opposed to, you know, doing a 3-on-2? I mean, later in the show, Angle offers a 2-on-2, and then they request a 3-on-2. But if you're going to, why not add a third, and that third be someone from Miz's past? This would be my answer to this if Roman's unavailable. And, I mean, I don't think Sandow would work, but he's someone from Miz's past. If you could somehow get John Morrison involved in this, and now I know he's under contract with other organizations, but he's also very unhappy right now after they just screwed over his girlfriend. If you could somehow get him involved here, that, I think, would live up to expectations of what you could actually do with this feud.
I think Roman might be available after SummerSlam. After maybe I don't know what's happening with him at SummerSlam, but if he ever ends up not with the title in that time, I could see them doing a Shield reunion, probably maybe at one of the B shows after SummerSlam. So I don't necessarily think. The other thing, though, is that Rollins and Ambrose are already so overpowered compared to the three that I don't think that they can really even justify having a third member. I mean, we're talking about Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel here. So I don't necessarily think that they themselves feel like they need to justify having a third person. I also feel like anybody but Roman joining Rollins and Ambrose will be a disappointment for the crowd because you're teasing the Shield so hard.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you're going to do this, then why do so when you know Roman is sucked up in a bigger angle? Like, why didn't we just wait on this? Why didn't we not have these guys align yet? There's lots of time. Trust me, WWE has tons of time. There's many programs you can swap in and out and just redo over and over again. How long have Ambrose and Miz been involved in some sort of feud? This came over from SmackDown.
It's been a while. I think the Ambrose Rollins stuff is a little corny, the two of them together.
They're terrible.
It's corny, but I think in wrestling and kids' TV, you can get away with a great deal of corniness. I would say, judging by some of the reactions, I think it's somewhat working, but I would almost see them reunite as heels at this point. I think, like I said, I feel like they're all kind of unlikable compared to maybe where they were several years ago. And a reunion of these guys as heels, I feel like almost makes a bit more sense at this point, including Roman.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just see this as a dead program. I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in Rollins and Ambrose together. I'm not interested in Ambrose and Miz in the ring together. I'm not interested in the Miz Taraj. And I liked Miz and Maurice. Like, Miz and Maurice were a hot item together. They were a great act, and they've really managed to screw that up.
Miz and the Miz Taraj are backstage with Charlie, and we see them quickly leaving the arena, basically running away from Dean and Seth. Bayley takes on Alexa Bliss, and this match was made after last week's tag team match where Bayley pinned Alexa. Bayley, as she enters the ring, gives her shirt to a little boy who's crying in the front row for her. Very sweet. The match starts with Bayley coming out on top of an aggressive exchange. Nia Jax then comes out to watch ringside as Alexa smiles and we head to break. Bliss starts working on Bayley's left arm. We get a stunner on the top rope and Bayley begins her comeback with her good arm. Alexa retreats to the floor. Nia distracts Bayley and Alexa sneaks up with the cheap shot. Sasha Banks runs down and takes Nia out. Back in the ring, Bayley hits her Bayley to belly and pins Alexa again. What did you think of the match, Jay?
The match was fine. I mean, this was mainly in place to forward both the angle with Bayley and Sasha that we see a little bit later. Now, what I mainly took out of this is, like, you know, we've wanted Sasha and Bayley for a while, but thought that Sasha would turn on Bayley when Bayley had the championship and we'd get that play out. And then all of a sudden Bayley got real cold. Now they're trying to heat her up again. And now they may be teasing this with what they're going to do next week with this match. And I guess that leads, I'm wondering if it actually does lead to one of them at SummerSlam, or they're going to deflect these two off together at SummerSlam and have and have Alexa and Nia, because that was the program previously at SummerSlam. But what I'm also wondering on top of this is that with all the, like, with the Four Horsewomen angle coming out of the Mae Young Classic, and you're supposed to be doing Four Horsewomen of the MMA, as Lita would say, versus the Four Horsewomen in the WWE, then don't you have to somewhat keep Bayley and Sasha aligned when ultimately, by putting them in ring together next week, you're spicing up what could have been that feud?
Absolutely. I do think so. But I don't think that Four Horsewomen deal will probably take place for a while. You know, you're going to have to
WrestleMania? I think it makes sense. Ronda in a WWE ring at WrestleMania, to me, makes pretty good sense.
I would say so, if you're going to have Ronda appear. So I don't necessarily know what's in store for Bayley and Sasha, but I'm with you. I don't see a breakup occurring as a result of this particular storyline that they're working on. This match and last week, I think, were all designed to really just build up Bayley back into that contendership role after I guess the descent she's had since her debut. And yeah, they've done a relatively decent job. 2 pins over the champion is really kind of all the justification you need to get somebody back in that mix. I could see there being either a 3-way or even a 4-way for the women's championship at SummerSlam. I
don't know about that, though, because if you do a 4-way with the women's championship, it looks as though you're getting a 4-way with the main championship.
That's
so
true.
I don't see 2 4-ways happening on the same card.
So who do you do here? You think you do Nia, or because I don't know if Sasha Alexa works right coming off of the last one so soon, and they seem to be putting too much focus on Bayley to just kind of let her go without a notable match at the show.
Well, I don't know if you do. Do you want to see Bayley and Alexa again? I mean, there was a certain time where you would, but we've just seen that. So yeah. I think your thought is right for a 4-way, but are you going to do 2 4-ways on SummerSlam? That would make sense. I mean, you could pretty much remember when Braun and Nia came in at the exact same time and were running the exact same program, just the male and the female version of it, of just slaughtering jobbers. Mm-hmm. Well, at this point, we pretty much have the same thing, where next week we could see exactly what we saw this week with the 2 number 1 contenders having a match for the title, being Bayley and Sasha, and Nia running in and destroying them both, and all of a sudden Boom! You've got a 4-way. They're gonna run the exact same program for the women and the men.
Also, keep in mind, I mean, SummerSlam, you're dealing with both shows, so you only have a limited number of spots for everybody. It might be a little redundant and repetitive, but I could see them doing it, perhaps. We shall see. Corey Graves leaves the commentary desk at this point, and we get a quick recap of the ESPYs from this weekend, where there was plenty of WWE involvement. The first was Cena giving out what is essentially the ESPYs version of the Warrior Award. And then, speaking of Ronda Rousey, Ronda...
Hold on, before we get to Ronda?
Yeah.
This kid, Jarius J.J. Robertson, this kid can talk. This kid has got some real charisma. Did you not notice this? I mean, editing probably helped, but man, this kid can talk.
Do we know that this is actually a kid and not somebody with a growth deficiency who's
I'm not sure.
Adult in the kid's body? Because this person spoke like a fully grown adult in a child's body.
Maybe he's got the Webster disease.
So Cena gives an award to him, and then more humanitarian work is recognized as Ronda Rousey, the aforementioned, presents the Stuart Scott Award to Stephanie McMahon for her humanitarian work, and some Connor's Cure mentions here. It seemed like some pretty big recognition for the WWE at the ESPYs this year.
Yep, and then they had to tell us about it on their own program.
We get a Roman Reigns highlight package in promotion of tonight's main event. Of course, it's Reigns versus Joe for the number one contendership for Brock Lesnar's championship at SummerSlam. They're really pushing the big dog nickname.
Yeah. I noticed that tonight because they had him say it later as well. So
every
I guess that's the next T-shirt.
The big dog. Obviously, you can't have a man with a yard without a dog being in it. So maybe we'll have the big dog. We'll have the big dog house. Maybe dog bowl.
Big dog. Point. Maybe he'll get a line of clothing. It'll be called Big Doggy Style.
Wow.
Maybe he'll get Snoop Dogg and Sasha with him.
He should come out with dogs, just like a bunch of Rottweilers on chains. That'd be a cool.
Yeah, it's like we'll rerun the Al Snow Big Boss Man
shit
all over again. The Kennel from Hell.
Yeah. Corey.
Well, we brought back Punjabi Prison, so why not the Kennel from Hell next?
We do need some type of dog match. I agree. Yeah. Corey Graves is with Kurt Angle backstage, and Angle is looking worried. He's having second thoughts about tonight's announcement. Graves says this is going to get out either way because it's the golden age of social media, and Graves assures him that it'll be okay. Kurt Angle thanks him and says Graves' friendship means a lot to us. Do you think there's a deeper role for Corey Graves in all this beyond what was explained tonight?
Well, there was the link that was brought about why Corey knew, which I did enjoy the fact that they did tie that up, considering Corey was in NXT when Jordan was there and they became friends and Jordan confided in him. So good on them for actually tying that together for the reason why Corey knew this was going on and was the link, not that he's just, everywhere and just knows everything. I don't know. I mean, because we also saw a little bit later, Cass goes over to Corey as well and gets in his face again. So they look like they are integrating Corey into storylines here more so than any other announcer that we've seen recently.
They see the way Corey's been played up in this whole thing. He almost kind of plays himself like sort of somebody with an ulterior motive in all this. And I guess the explanation that he's friends with Jordan kind of blows it off. But I do wonder if there's something more to it, or maybe it's just kind of Graves throwing out, sort of like a misdirection here and there.
Yeah, I really hope not. And the reason I say that is because, all right, if you do the misdirection, then it's like Corey's working for himself and he's trying to gain something. If he was trying to be nice to Angle, but in actuality uproot him from his position because he has motives to want to be the GM, and then Corey gets that role of being the heel GM as he sucks up to everybody and kisses ass to get there, then that's fine. He exists in that role for a while, but then what happens when that role ends? Corey is a very good announcer, and I think they should just focus and let him be that very good announcer because it's been a long time since we've had a color guy as good as he is.
Titus Worldwide is backstage, and this is, of course, Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, and Akira Tozawa. Titus gives pep talks to both men, and in walks Arya Daivari, who reiterates that it is his intent to dedicate his match tonight against Akira Tozawa to Iranian gold medalist Hassan Yazdani. Hassan Yazdani, there was a lot of mention of Hassan Yazdani here, to the point where they decided later on to put a graphic up on him ahead of the match. Now, I don't know if this is just, like a gimmick for Daivari, but they made so much mention of the guy that you would almost wonder if he was somebody who was intending on becoming a professional wrestler, making an appearance someday. Any thoughts?
I guess that seemed like it to me. It was, when WWE does stuff like this and they smack you over the head, they got to have some sort of reason for it. Unless he'll be appearing, or is he going to show up in Daivari's corner at some point? Something like that. It did seem like something was up because I noticed it as well.
See, but it's kind of strange to just have that as just a celebrity thing, because Hassan Yazdani is a legit Iranian wrestling gold medalist, but nobody would know him here.
No.
And also, he would be siding with a heel. And,
that's also true.
Unless he's, got...
He's a foreigner, Wai. The foreigners are always heels.
Unless he's got, like a I guess a Kurt Angle level of charisma or something like that. I don't know what the end game is, so
Jason Jordan's opponent, he has to face an Olympic wrestler.
Wow. Maybe he's another child. Maybe Angle will just have a whole family of wrestling children.
He just went to the Olympics and got into the Olympic Village and spread his seed all over.
It would make sense. Make perfect sense. Cruiserweight tag team match. Drew Gulak and Brian Kendrick take on Mustafa Ali and Jack Gallagher. And Jason, did you notice the lack of purple ropes?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even clue into that. I think I'm so prone to just kind of going, all right, it's the cruiserweights on now. I'm not all that interested in what's happening. So no purple ropes, and there wasn't any later either, was there?
No. So I actually only noticed it in the second match, but I went back to the first one and noticed that they were gone. And you know what, Jay? This crowd was so loud for this match, I couldn't even hear the commentary. The ropes made all the difference. It did not make one bit of difference. The matches are the same. The reactions are the same. These people just simply aren't really over. And you know what?
Because they don't get to see their we know they don't get to see their angles. Tomorrow night's crowd gets to see their angles. So these are just matches for the sake of matches. They can be athletic as they want, but if they don't have angles behind them, then why bother? It's four guys in a ring.
The thing is, I don't know how much 205 Live you do watch, but the angles just aren't very good. And the star power is just really lacking for these guys, no matter what the reason is. And I think after tonight, we know that purple ropes really are not one of the reasons. Anyway, Gulak and Kendrick versus Ali and Jack Gallagher. Gulak and Ali have been feuding, and Gallagher and Kendrick are currently in a feud. The heels cut Gallagher off, but a big headbutt from him to Kendrick allows him to tag Ali in. And the headbutt from Gallagher perfectly puts Kendrick in position in the corner. So Ali, all he has to do is come in, tag in, deliver the inverted 450 to Kendrick for the very quick win. A very short match, received very little reaction until the inverted 450.
Yep, I have nothing more to say about this.
Ali versus Gulak, 2 out of 3 falls match tomorrow. And I'm excited to see if there will be purple ropes on 205 Live.
I would still think there is going to be there.
Yeah.
I think they do want to brand. I mean, you have the different brands, and I don't mind that as much. I mean, it's completely stupid on Raw to come out and tape the ropes over and over. But if you're doing an hour-long show and that's your brand and you have the purple title, that still does make sense to me. They do it in NXT, Raw, SmackDown. That all makes sense. But yeah, doing this on Raw over and over and just using that much duct tape was really dumb.
Do we know what color the ropes are for the Mae Young Classic?
Are they teal? Rada and I were having a discussion about it's. I don't know if I don't know if they've gone with the color palette of. I guess we can check. Okay, you run this down. I'll look it up.
Very important information.
Yeah.
Enzo Amore walks out. He comes out dancing. He's very jovial, and he decides to quote Sir Isaac Newton, who says, "For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction." He says there is no man who can elicit a reaction on a microphone like Enzo. He says you win some, you lose some, but you always got to fight for what you believe in. And he says Cass didn't get rid of him at Great Balls of Fire. He talks about checkbooks and says Cass bounced the check when he couldn't stand up to Big Show last week. Big Cass comes out, says he's going to come down and finally shut Enzo's mouth. Enzo goes into the crowd. He pulls out a kid dressed in his headgear, and he says he and this kid are just going to sit here and watch as this next guy comes down and faces Cass if Cass wants to fight so badly. And down comes the Big Show for what I thought was a match, but a bell is never rung. So really it's just a Big Show and the Cass fighting each other in the ring. Action quickly spills to the floor. They brawl. Show body slams Cass on the floor. Big chops. Camera cuts to Enzo, who's really enjoying it. Fight on the apron. Cass starts to shove Show's ribs into the ring post, starts to attack the guy's body. Show actually gets cut open slightly, and then the crowd even begins a mild "Let's go Show" chant. Enzo sees the Big Show in trouble and decides to jump in to help the Big Show out, but Cass just lays him out with a big boot. Cass stands tall, and he leaves the ring as the Big Show looks on, angry. Did you find that out, Jay?
That yes. So I believe they're just white. I'm looking at the vignette from the Mae Young Classic Parade, and I think they're white. They could be teal because the lighting's all weird as they introduce all these girls. Excuse me. So I think they might just be white. Now, it's the investigative journalism that we bring to you here on Review Raw.
Thank you for that.
In regards to this Enzo and Cass, I hated the fact that they're making them interact. I was very happy when Enzo didn't appear. Cass came out last week and immediately engaged in a program with Big Show, and you've removed Enzo from the equation. And I thought that Enzo should be removed and taken away from Cass. Cass beat him. We're done. Not the case. Here tonight, Enzo comes out. He's cutting the promo on Cass. Cass comes down again. And then all of a sudden you have these two together, and then Enzo just looks like a little chicken shit running outside of the ring and setting up the Big Show. And then to me, also, Cass and Big Show, these two working together. I mean, last week hit an all-time high of awkwardness when for some reason they were doing Greco-Roman wrestling, which was very, very strange. This week, there was a spot here where both of them were trying to do things on the apron. So they were both standing on the apron. They're two very large men. Just get in the damn ring or get on the outside of the ring. Choose one of the two. Do not do something on the apron and interact and punch and kick and do what you're going to do. But this was also weird to me because here you had Cass gain the advantage right away and leave by beating them both up. And Enzo, the chicken shit, tries to run up and attack Cass when he's already in there with the Big Show. How does this make sense for the baby faces double teaming the heel 2-on-1?
I think that they want to. Well, they don't want to just have Enzo lose just like that and leave, because where does that leave Enzo?
It doesn't matter. He's going to talk his way out of it. He could have done that promo tonight and said, I you know what? He is 7 feet tall. I worked my hardest. I gave it everything that I got, and I'm still running around. I'm still going to do my thing. I'm Enzo Amore, and I'm going to keep going. That's all. And then remove him from Cass.
I think for a baby face, even for somebody who, let's be honest, probably might not be a world champion, I think you need to have him appear a little better. Get some semblance of revenge for this guy who laid him out multiple times, beat the shit out of him at the pay-per-view. And I think that's where they're leading towards. I don't sense the crowd negatively reacting to Enzo double teaming Big Cass with the Big Show because, Cass is so much bigger. And so Enzo...
Yeah, but the Big Show's even bigger than Cass.
Right. But as you can see here, I mean, Big Cass, I suppose, is younger and is able to take both men out. So it still exists as a challenge for both of them.
I didn't like it. I thought that they should have separated them, and Cass and Big Show should have a feud. And I do agree that Cass should go over. He is the younger guy. Big Show's a part-timer. It's a good it's someone to elevate Cass, saying that he's beat the big guy, so he's the new big guy, and then move him along and do something else with him.
We'll see what they do. I'll also say, though, like, this is, I think, maybe like the third or fourth week we've had Enzo come out and talk by himself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like, we kind of talk about how Cass is really missing something without Enzo. I think Enzo's really missing something without Cass because when they let him talk for that long, there's just something like... I like Enzo a lot. I think he's got a very special, unique voice, but when they let him talk this much, it's almost a little too much, you know? He's like the guy who's usually the life of the party, who you like spending 10 minutes with, but you don't want to spend an hour-long car ride with by yourself. You know? And this guy can get a little annoying. So, you know, as much as I think one guy helped the other, like Enzo kind of needs that person to just cut him off and do a catchphrase occasionally.
Yeah. He's Braden Harrington. It's nice to spend a couple minutes with him, but then you invite him and you live with him, and then you regret your life.
They are both kind of millennial symbols.
Oh, man, Braden loves this guy.
Oh, boy.
Tells me about who he hangs out with and stuff. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Just keep looking down at your phone.
Roman Reigns is backstage with Charlie, and Charlie reminds him that Samoa Joe has beaten him twice. Roman says, it's all in the past, and then proceeds to throw all of his catchphrases into his next 4 or 5 sentences. He's going to go on to face Brock and win the WWE Universal Championship. Why? Because he's the big dog, and this is his yard.
Yep. Great.
The whole segment felt like all these segments kind of feel like randomized cutscenes in the video game career modes. Just like automated, everything from Charlie's dry questioning to the completely predictable catchphrase kind of full of responses where somebody like Roman here will say a lot, but ultimately will say nothing.
Yep, I agree with you. And the next one is kind of the same thing.
Ambrose and Rollins backstage. They're both in the locker room, still sore from their injuries from an hour and a half ago. And the two are playing a very cute, oh, you annoy me so much. Why did you have to get in the way? It was like any Tom Hanks romantic comedy. It's
garbage. Just garbage. Don't insult Tom Hanks like that.
Angle makes a tag match for next week. Rollins and Ambrose versus any 2 members of the Miz Taraj. But then Ambrose says, why not all 3? So Angle says whatever, makes the match. And nothing further to add, I take it?
No, nothing.
Elias Samson is in the ring. The crowd starts chanting, we want Balor, before he even begins talking. And Samson says to keep your cell phones down and hold your applause. So these sheep, of course, hold their cell phones up. Finn Balor interrupts. And Finn Balor versus Elias Samson.
Hold on. Before you get into the match, did you not want to hear the song? I wanted to hear this song insulting Nashville. Because it's Music City, right?
Yeah.
It's Nashville.
But Jay, how many of these Samson songs have been notable at all? Have been memorable at all?
Because it's going back to the same thing. But I think that especially in Nashville, just he throws out a couple lines insulting the audience. They boo him, and then he uses his regular catchphrase of what I can't even remember what it is, but he did an NXT all the time, and then the music hits. I wanted more out of him here. If they're going to set him up and put him in the middle of the ring, then let him go. Also, start calling him the Drifter again. That was way better than using his real name.
Finn Balor versus Elias Samson. Samson tosses Balor onto his back hard. He gets the advantage, full Nelson. Balor hits an overhead kick and begins his comeback. Samson catches Finn in an electric chair, spins him over, and lands a sit-out powerbomb for 2. They fight on the floor. Finn hits a big running dropkick onto Samson into the barricade. And then Samson, at this point, just grabs his guitar, smashes Balor in the head with it on the floor. The match is called. This guitar actually slices Balor up pretty badly. He starts bleeding. The officials pull out their rubber gloves. I'm not so sure this was a Jeff Jarrett worked guitar.
It wasn't. Number one, he played it off the top. Mm-hmm. Number two, if you looked inside as he was walking up the ramp, it had the
pickups. It had the electronics in it. So
what the fuck is WWE doing? Like, why didn't they simply, if they wanted to have him use the guitar, that's fine. Have a second guitar at ringside, swap it out, and then grab your good old Jeff Jarrett guitar and hit Balor over the head so you don't slice the guy open.
Well, if you watch the bump itself, he was aiming for Finn's shoulder, and Finn mainly took it on his shoulder, but clearly it didn't all work out like that. And, this resulted in a pretty nasty cut on Balor. If you go on his Twitter, you can, definitely see the effects. So maybe in the future they should really think twice about that. I'm surprised it actually took them this long for Samson to start smashing the guitar, because I think it's been a long time. I mean, it got Jared over plenty, so I think it's it's a new, it's something that might actually help the guy become a serious threat.
I have no problem with him using guitar. I mean, he has it. I think it's great, and I'm shocked that they never used it in NXT either. It's just, let's work the guitars. Let's safety first, everyone. Safety first.
Finn is being taken to the back, and he's interrupted on screen by Bray Wyatt. This poor guy, Finn Balor, he's hurt, he's bleeding, and now he has to stand there and just wait out this long rambling from Bray Wyatt. Bray says he feels the need to punish Finn Balor and says Finn's name is from Irish mythology, but Bray isn't a myth, he's real. And then he says some stuff about like souls and devils and rain, and he's going to enjoy every second of beating up Finn Balor, I guess, as if taking responsibility for this attack. So it looks like Balor versus Bray Wyatt is the SummerSlam program. What do you think of that?
I do think it's good. I think that means we're getting the Demon at SummerSlam, and I think this is the program that should happen. I know
I think you have to get the Demon at any of the big shows.
Well, yeah, and you have to have the proper person on the other side to bring the Demon out for. And listen, Balor is, in my opinion, Balor's cold. The audience still likes Balor. So if you like Balor, you got your audience there. Bray Wyatt is the appropriate person to use the Demon against. I've thought this program was going to happen a long time ago. So be done with the Drifter, get over to Wyatt, and hopefully, I mean, I've said it a bunch of times, but hopefully it actually works here, because Wyatt has a knack of ruining anyone that he steps into the ring with. The matches never really work out, despite the fact that these are both kind of mythical gimmicks. Hopefully this translates into the ring as well.
I'm very curious to know how they will push it, and we've seen them, last attempt something, I guess, on this scale with the Randy Orton program, and I think we all kind of still have a pretty bad taste from it. There were some glimpses of like, oh, okay, this stuff is actually kind of cool, but they definitely fumbled a lot of the kind of bigger stunts and bigger aspects of that program. This is a program that I think calls upon a lot more of that kind of mythical storytelling, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see how they do this time. Samoa Joe highlight video sets up his main event later on tonight. Kurt Angle is on the phone. He says he's anxious for tonight, but he's ready. Bayley and Sasha show up. Both of them feel like they deserve the next title shot against Alexa. Kurt says he's going to let the two of them decide next week in a number one contendership match between the two of them next week. Charlie is with the Revival. She asks them why they attacked the Hardys. Dash Wilder says that when they met the Hardys pretended that they didn't know who they were, like they were nobodies. Dawson says he doesn't care about the Hardys nor their legacy, but he guarantees that after tonight, they'll care about the Revival. So it's Revival versus the Hardys tonight, and it's one of the few times that the Revival have actually been given some mic time since they arrived on Raw. How do you think they did?
It was very average for them. I kind of expect more out of them, but I did like that they brought up the shirts, the no flips, just fists. And that's very appropriate for this particular feud versus the Hardys. Mm-hmm. And they used their top guys out thing. So give these guys a little bit. They were stunted due to the injury. I love these guys. Follow them through NXT. I think they're excellent. I love the fact that the Hardys are paired with them, as the Hardys are clearly being pushed into a losing streak so they can become broken, providing that all works out with Impact and such. But yeah, I hope they just continually get wins over the Hardys. This will be great.
Akira Tozawa versus Arya Daivari. They show a graphic, as we mentioned, of Hassan Yazdani. And Daivari aims for Tozawa's injured shoulder right off the bat. And this is, of course, coming off of Neville's attack last week on 205 Live. Tozawa fights back, hits a belly-to-back suplex. Daivari dodges a dive and then continues to attack Tozawa's shoulder. Shoulder breaker for a near fall. Great selling from Tozawa, I thought. Daivari keeps stomping. Titus decides to jump up on the apron at this point and forfeits the match for Tozawa. So Daivari shouts something in his language again about Hassan Yazdani, but when Tozawa comes to and finds out that Titus quit his match for him, he's really pissed off. Runs up the ramp shouting at Titus saying, "You don't care about me, I never quit." And of course, as he's clutching his injured shoulder.
What's the end game here? What's the end game with Tozawa and Titus? Is it a program between Tozawa and Apollo? And Apollo's on Titus's side? Or is Tozawa going to face Titus? Or is Tozawa going to win a title with Titus as the manager? What's happening?
I think the end game is to simply try to get Tozawa over, or at least try to make him somewhat of an interesting, relatable character without him having to speak all that much English and having Titus as sort of a mouthpiece. I don't see a match occurring between Titus and Tozawa. I'm also not really sure what Titus and Apollo are going to end up doing. Maybe it's a match. Personally, I think, and this goes for many of the 205ers, I feel like they'd be great in tag team roles. I think a Tozawa and Cruz tag team might be the most value you might get out of all this, in my opinion.
Oh, did you also notice, and I forgot to bring this up earlier, when they did the vignette of the Titus brand, Titus Worldwide, so you had Apollo and you had Tozawa in the dressing room, and then Daivari came in, Titus remained seated the entire time.
Oh.
And I guarantee you that was done because he's so much bigger than these guys and makes them look so small. Yeah. So Titus remains seated. Even when he was trying to push the two of them apart, Daivari and Tozawa, he remains seated the entire time.
Yeah, you're probably exactly right. And then we have our main event. The big announcement. Kurt Angle comes out. He says, every action has a consequence. Basically the same as what Enzo said. Says an action of his from the past has resulted in this consequence. And then he starts to get whatted here. He starts to get what chance? And this is, I guess, when you can sense the crowd not really buying into any of this. Kurt starts to cry, but that does not stop these people from calling out the bullshit and chanting what? Angle says, thankfully, his family has been very supportive of this. And Angle goes on to explain that when he was in college at Clarion University, he dated a young lady. And it wasn't until recently that he learned that she gave birth 9 months after their last date. She gave birth to a baby boy. This boy was put up for closed adoption, and he was adopted by two great parents who taught him great American values. He starts bragging about this fine young man. He says he was a high school 3-sport athlete, a great student, drafted to play baseball, but instead he decided to go to college to excel at wrestling. And after college he had many options, but he decided to pursue his dream of becoming a WWE superstar. Kurt's really happy he did that, and says that because wrestlers settle everything in a wrestling ring, Kurt introduces the newest member of Raw, his son, Jason Jordan. How did you feel about the reveal, Jay? And, what thoughts were going through your head? What was your prediction heading into the show?
Yeah, my prediction, I think, I didn't give one last night, but I was thinking illegitimate child.
Did you have a name?
No. I don't know if I was surprised at Jordan. I guess I thought, just because you're playing the race card here, right? Gable would probably be more likely. Renee actually made a funny comment about how much they look alike in the interview. Did you catch that?
I did catch that.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I actually do buy it,
What, that they look alike?
So, yeah, somewhat. They have somewhat similar facial features. Like, if you cast the two of them as a father and son in a movie, I would buy it.
All right. I don't know. I don't like the whole thing. They're not. I just don't like anything about this. I'm not excited about it. I didn't really care for the reveal. Here's what I have written. I have closed adoption, great American values, Jason Jordan. I hate this already. Those are my notes.
Perhaps the biggest news coming out of this whole segment was this basically meant the breakup of American Alpha.
Yeah, did Angle have to make a trade here? Like, how did Jordan get over to Raw?
That was never explained. Maybe there's just a rule that says all family members, same brand. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out on SmackDown. That is something if they wanted to bring somebody over, they could always do that. But I guess this means, Jason Jordan is about to receive a singles push on Raw. Where does this leave Chad Gable?
Well, he had a great match with AJ Styles a couple weeks ago. I guess he's pushed as a single as well.
And how do you think that'll go on SmackDown? Do you think, what level could he possibly achieve, being that he is a smaller guy?
I don't know. It all depends how he's pushed. He had a good showing versus AJ, and he showed himself to be competitive. So it's not like he was, he wasn't just jobbed out there. We'll see who they put him in the first program with, and what aspects of American Alpha they take away, because they are identical characters because they were part of a tag team and they're on their opposite brands now, right? So we'll see how they manage to push them forward. And I mean, from what I remember, Gable is better on the mic than Jordan. So but he's also smaller.
Do you think it was premature breaking that team up?
No, that team never had a good run on the main roster. These guys were excellent together in NXT, and they were never allowed to flourish. They were just buried right away. I hope that doesn't happen to the Revival on Raw. I hope they're at least given a chance.
I think the fact that the Revival seem a little bit better on the microphone than or I would say much better on the mic.
It's a completely different level. Different level.
I think that fact alone is enough to kind of have them fit the Vince McMahon mold a little bit better than American Alpha, who I think always had trouble from a character standpoint on SmackDown. And when you put him under, like Full Sail, you could be a great worker and that'll be enough to get you over. SmackDown, I guess not as much. And it's not like these two were really given the space to have some great matches either. They had some pretty good matches, but like nothing that was kind of like, wow, you have to see this, So I would say the Revival probably will maybe have a better chance, but we'll see. Hardys versus the Revival up next. Gallows and Anderson are watching backstage. And it's all Hardys for most of this match. Matt works on Dawson. The delete head smashes into the turnbuckle from Matt. Bulldog for two. The Hardys, if you remember last week, the Hardys kind of cut that promo, really strongly hinting at the broken characters. This week we didn't get a promo from the Hardys. So I don't know if that means anything. We know that kind of talks between them and Anthem broke down recently. I don't know if they're slightly backing off, but Matt, is still doing a lot of his mannerisms in ring. Hardys still with the advantage after the commercial. Finally, a low drop kick to Matt's left leg puts the Revival on offense. Dash and Dawson with some great looking offense on Matt's leg, working on that for a long, long time. Finally, Matt gets the hot tag to Jeff. Second rope splash onto Wilder for two. Dawson distracts Jeff. Revival go for the Shatter Machine, but Jeff gets out. He hits the Twist of Fate on Dawson. Wilder makes the save at two. Crowd is getting really hot for this. Whisper in the wind. Jeff goes up for the Swanton, but Dash crotches him on the top rope. Dawson grabs Jeff's tights and rolls him up for three. So the Hardys losing streak continues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to see, as a side or a byproduct of this, you did not see Cesaro and Sheamus tonight on this show, and going towards SummerSlam, what do you do? Who's getting the title shot?
Didn't they say Gallows and Anderson? Gallows and Anderson beat the Hardys last week?
Yes, Gallows and Anderson beat the Hardys last week, and then the Revival came in and swooped in and beat up the Hardys after they were beaten by Gallows and Anderson.
Four-way, Jay. Come on.
Yeah, another four-way. Okay, makes sense. Cool.
All four ways.
All four ways.
Yeah, I actually quite like this match. I think in-ring, the Revival bring like a really fresh, serious, technical style that's been missing from the division. You kind of have Cesaro and Sheamus who are like, like brutes with a lot of like strong style type of stuff, but the Revival, I think, are a lot more. They seem a lot more technical than any of the other teams. So I think they're a very welcome addition.
They're going to look very, very tiny. They look small beside the Hardys height-wise, and they're going to look very tiny beside Sheamus and Cesaro, if that is at all a direction, which it shouldn't be because you have double heels there.
I'm guessing maybe you have somebody turn. And last week I talked to Nate about the potential of, let's say, Gallows and Anderson perhaps turning babyface. Do you think that's maybe possible for SummerSlam?
I mean, anything's possible, but those guys I don't think are adored by the crowd enough to be full out baby faces. Yeah, I don't know. The whole nerds thing that Gallows keeps doing, I don't really enjoy it.
They're huge baby faces to people who follow their stuff online, who follow them through podcasts, and I think who maybe have followed them through New Japan. But they've really kind of not crafted that identity on TV yet with Raw. We are in the back with Charlie again. She's talking to Samoa Joe, and she asked Joe if he has any qualms about stepping in the big dog's yard. And Joe says that his world is far bigger than Roman's yard. Joe says he's more than just an obstacle in Roman's way. He's a force of nature. And he guarantees that tonight, the third time's the charm when he beats Roman again. I thought a really strong promo from Joe. I think his delivery feels very seasoned now, especially in comparison to a lot of the scripted delivery you find on this show. I think his words feel very real and very confident and full of personality.
Yeah, I liked him last week in the ring better than this week behind the scenes. This is a bit yelly for me, but appropriate to what he's going into and going through now. So this is good.
We get a video feature about Norris Peterson, who is a Special Olympics athlete, and this featured a very short clip, an appearance with Dana Warrior conducting an interview. And I assume you have nothing to say at all about this.
Well, if the WWE does something good, they're going to tell you about it.
Preview for Table for 3 tonight with former Nation of Domination members Mark Henry, Godfather, and Ron Simmons. You can go check that out, but I think I caught like 1 second of it prior to us doing the show. And I did catch Mark Henry basically saying that he is transitioning currently into a backstage role.
Oh.
Yeah. So Tozawa is backstage again with Titus, and Tozawa is mad. Titus says he knows Tozawa is mad and he's okay with that, but Titus would not be okay if Tozawa would be out for a month or a year because Daivari would have done some permanent damage if he hadn't stopped the match. Tozawa demands a rematch with Daivari for tomorrow night on 205 Live, which I assume Jason Agnew will not be watching.
I will not be watching that.
Next week, Balor versus Samson rematch, Sasha versus Bayley for a number 1 contendership, and Ambrose and Rollins versus Miz and the Miz Taraj. And then the main event.
Yeah, hold on. Do you not realize how significant this was?
What, the announcement of new matches?
They promoted exactly what's happening on the show next week, and I've outlined 3 different matches that we're getting next week. When was the last time you got that?
I feel like little surprises from time to time. Maybe not like 3 announcements, but maybe like they typically announce like a match or 2.
There have been many times where and they're not this well recapped and clear as to right before we're going into the main event. We're going to tell you what's on next week's show. I thought this was good. I thought this showed like, hey, we're not just going to throw things together on Monday afternoon. We've got at least a week plan. And maybe this is because they're going into SummerSlam, which is a large event, and they have a little bit more scripted out than they normally do. But I thought this was excellent to know that 3 things that we're getting next week.
Main event time, Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. Winner faces Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. The crowd is very hot right off the bat for this. The two of them exchange tackles, and it's Samoa Joe who gets knocked out of the ring repeatedly to start. We come back from break, and Joe is controlling the match. Some dueling chants against Roman here. Mongolian chops from Joe onto Roman. He wrenches Roman's neck as they slow the action down, and I'm just really glad to see a rest hold that wasn't a rear chin lock or a side headlock at this point. I thought Joe here was just doing something that looked very uncomfortable, but was probably very simple to do. Snap suplex from Joe for 2 before going right back to that neck wrench. Joe looks for a Uranagi, but Reigns breaks out of it. Reigns lands a flying clothesline for 2. Big boot to Joe sends him off his feet. Roman signals for the Superman punch, but Joe rolls to the floor to escape. Reigns runs around looking for the drive-by, but Joe stops him with a big clothesline that ends with Roman landing with his back on the apron. Roman with a clothesline of his own and a double down outside the ring as we go to our final commercial break. Back from break and the crowd is buzzing. Joe looks for the Uranagi again. Reigns counters with an arm drag and then lands a Superman punch for 2.5. And then roar. Braun Strowman's music hits, and he walks out with a bandaged elbow for the first time since the pay-per-view. Strowman pulls Joe out of the ring. Strowman and Roman then brawl on the floor. Strowman with a huge Beal throws Roman through the second ropes from the floor back into the ring. The match still isn't called at this point, and I wonder if that was intentional. I wonder if the lack of a bell to signify the DQ was avoided so that the crowd wouldn't prematurely boo the segment. Because it's unusual that they just wouldn't officially announce the end of the match like this.
Yeah, was there? I didn't notice. Was there ever an end to the match?
No, I think
it's still going.
It's still happening. Yeah,
still happening. So it's like the Curtis Axel Royal Rumble thing, where he was just never eliminated because he never got in. This was expected.
Yeah. So Strowman comes in. Joe and Strowman lock eyes now, and they start brawling. Strowman gets the better of their exchange. So now Joe and Roman have to team up to take down Strowman. Coquina clutch on Strowman, and then a Superman punch at the same time. There are "This is awesome" chants from this crowd who clearly don't care the match has been called. Or maybe they didn't know that the match was called. Strowman ultimately takes both of them out with power slams. The local security comes down to try to get Braun out of the ring. Braun ends it with one more power slam to Reigns, and Braun Strowman stands tall over Joe and Reigns to end the show.
Yeah, so I guess you have the justification. There's a couple things here. So you have the bigger man, but you have two main eventers in the ring. But with the bigger man, even though they're main eventers, they've just wrestled an entire match. So he can gain the advantage on both of them. That's the psychology here, right? But this man was almost murdered in a vehicular attempted homicide 2 weeks ago. But he's okay. No problem.
He's got a Band-Aid. Bandaged arm.
Got a bandaged arm. Yeah, no real repercussions coming out of that as far as his physical state goes, which I found a little odd, aside from one bandage.
They're pushing the fact that he's a superhuman, This is a man who was supposed to be out for 6 months and came back, I don't know, however, maybe 1 month, and he survived vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah. Listen, I think that this is the right direction to go, and everything was good, and Joe and Roman worked well together in that match, and everything's really kind of swinging along for SummerSlam here in this four-way, which is where we're most likely headed. But how do you do that? I mean, if you're looking ahead to it, who does the title go on at the end? Do you take it off Brock for a while before you get it back to him?
I think a four-way is a perfect opportunity to take the belt off of Brock, and it's probably maybe one of the reasons why they're doing it. I would love to see Joe become the champion coming off of that match. It protects Brock. Roman with the belt, I don't think anybody wants to see it. I think Strowman with the belt, you can. I personally feel it's a little premature. I also don't think Braun needs it. He'll be a threat regardless. Joe, I think, would be great as a champion. I think he's proven himself more, to be, to me, my favorite performer on the roster currently. And I think you could do a number of programs with him at the top while you save Brock and Roman and even Strowman for something else.
Yep, I think that's the right way to go. And I think it's not what WWE planned. And I think we're going to watch, and hopefully they take into account the performance that Joe has put on and the way his promos have been and the way the audience is taking to him, and go with Joe coming out of SummerSlam. I'd love to see it. I think it would be excellent. And the guy deserves it. The guy's always been, well, not always been great. He had some when he wasn't motivated in TNA, but like
he is so motivated now.
Yes, yes, he's finally where he should be, and he deserves this at this point.
Like I think he was amazing in Ring of Honor. I think his early days in TNA were amazing, but I mean, I would say maybe he's he's at his best now. Like, I'd say physically, he's not slowed down at all. His promos, I think, now are better than they've ever been. And now he just really feels like a full package. And, you know, if there's any kind of silver lining to how long it took him to get to the WWE, it's the fact that guys like him and AJ, by the time they get here, they are just so much better than, you know, your typical even main eventer on the level of a Dean Ambrose or Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns, because they've done so much, you know. And I'm very excited for him, and a potential title run, I think, is inevitable for him.
So who does he? So if it's Joe, we both agree it should be Joe. Who does he pin? It's clearly not Brock, because you're not going to do that. So it's pinning Strowman or pinning Roman. Do you have? I guess you pin Roman.
I think Roman has to be the fall guy. I mean, but then again, they've been very protective of him too. They've been protective of almost everybody. But I don't see Brock taking the pin. I don't see Strowman taking the pin. But Roman, I mean, you know, Joe's already beaten him 2 times, so you kind of have that pecking order established, and you can do whatever shenanigans to kind of protect Roman in that pinfall too. So that's who I.
Well, yeah, you can have both Braun and Brock take him out, and then have Joe slide in to get the pin. Yeah. Because let's be honest, if Joe doesn't win this match, he's taking the pin.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put that past them either.
No, I kind of think that's the way WWE is going to go, but unfortunately, I would rather see him get the win instead of the pin.
We shall see. So we go to the WWE Network. Did you like the fact that they saved the explanation for after the network? Do you think it worked?
I watched it, so it worked on me because I had to do this show. And you know what? I would have watched it anyway, even if I wasn't doing this. But I would watch it so I could talk about it on the weekend.
So Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan are sitting down with Renee Young, and we get a video recap of tonight's segment, which I guess was put together quite quickly. It's hosted by Renee, and Renee
She says, "My guest at this time."
Did she actually say it?
No, she didn't. She didn't say that, but she should have.
Oh, she should have.
Just to piss people off.
You know, I wonder, like, because I could see somebody like Renee being just like such a good kind of company, well-liked person backstage, that I wonder if she received any type of talking to. But everybody was complaining. I'm sure people were more than probably just supportive of her and feeling bad for her that she didn't find out.
Yeah, it's a crappy way to find out, for sure.
So she starts off asking Kurt about the finish to tonight's main event, and Angle basically says, we'll have to make a decision next week. Talk to me later. Jason Jordan is asked about the whole thing, and he thanks the WWE Universe, and he especially thanks his parents for their support. Jordan is playing it really seriously. In fact, all 3 of them are playing it really seriously. Not campy at all. They're really trying to sell this emotionally. Jordan says he's always wondered where his athletic ability really came from, since his adopted parents weren't all that gifted. He says when he found out he was gifted, he wanted to know more, but he didn't because he didn't want to disrespect his parents. Kurt is acting as well as he's just watching Jordan here. I actually think Kurt was pretty darn good, just like looking on and looking like he's about to cry the entire time. Jordan says he ultimately found his birth mother and then had a conversation with her, and she told him that his father was Kurt Angle. Angle says he wants to make sure his son doesn't make the same mistakes he did and wants to be a father to Jason Jordan. Renee asks if Jordan will be receiving preferential treatment now that he's on his dad's show. Jordan says he's earned his way to the WWE and he's going to keep it that way. Renee, at this point, points out the physical similarities between the 2's faces here. And then Jordan says that while he may never be an Olympic gold medalist like his dad, he says one day he assures us he will be a champion. And then Renee asks Kurt if he has any advice for Jason to avoid some of his own personal problems. And Kurt says this is not only his second chance at a career being in the WWE, he says this is a second chance for him at being a father.
Yeah, that just did not make sense. He has 5 children that are all still kids.
Yeah. Well, I guess he was never a father to Jason Jordan. He means it's a second chance for him to be a father to this man, one man. Kurt cuts Renee off from further questioning and ends the interview because he wants to go out with his son to connect.
Yeah, because they had just met tonight. according to this interview. They had just met.
I suppose when you think about it, they might have not had all that much interaction because Alpha were always on SmackDown.
I know, but you figure if you're going to do this, maybe you meet the person before you bring them out on Raw.
Again, Jay, I'm not sure they're thinking that deeply as they're making all this stuff up.
Hey, Jordan was really sweaty. I think he was nervous for this because this is the first time they've really let him talk.
So we know that Jason Jordan, at least by reputation, seems to be the weaker of the two in the team, and as far as his talking here. But I thought he played this pretty well. I mean, I thought he was convincing as sort of the grateful child who recently found out who his dad was.
I think it was scripted well. I mean, my mom's adopted. I've dated an adopted girl. And I've heard some of the lines that they used in regards to not wanting to disrespect the parents that have taken care of you all your life and such, and try to find your real parents are discussions that I've heard before. So they had the right line scripted. And Jordan, I thought, delivered them fine. I don't like the angle. I don't have any problem with the way this was performed, but I just don't care for the angle at all.
What would it take for them to possibly swerve their way into you potentially liking this angle? Because I agree with you, this just seems to be the start. They have to give us something else in order to kind of complete this story. So what do you think it could be? What do you think would be a satisfying end to this whole thing?
If this is really Attitude Era, like Mouth had been thinking, then this is a complete scam by Jason Jordan.
Yeah, maybe with Corey Graves.
Yeah, Corey and Jordan have come together, and they're conning Kurt Angle. I still don't like it. I'll be honest with you. I still don't like it, but they're doing it.
Would you like to stay for feedback? Actually, first, before that, your thoughts on Raw that I made you late afternoon force yourself to give up your Monday night for to watch?
It's just another Raw. That's all. I mean, it was the Angle thing was. I'm guessing when we get into feedback, it's going to be considered disappointing. And I thought the Joe and Reigns and Strowman thing, that's all on track.
I really like Joe versus Reigns. I thought the match had a lot of heat. I thought it was a good match. And beyond that, in terms of wrestling, I'm trying to think what really stood out on this show. Hardy's.
You got the revival and the Hardys.
Hardy's revival, very solid.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you can watch a bit of the Jason Jordan, Kurt Angle thing. I mean, for kind of the shenanigans involved. And then the rest, I would say, you can probably kind of skip. So maybe you can, maybe 30 minutes tops. You can probably get through this Raw. Yeah. Would you like to join me for feedback?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
All right, great. Do you want to read it along with me?
Sure. I'll read the first one.
Okay.
It has a period.
Well, people usually do that as placeholders. But unfortunately...
Oh, really?
Yeah, unfortunately, that man did not make it, so sorry.
Wow.
So I'll read...
He has a picture with... is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's you and John.
Yeah.
Oh, that's his avatar. Okay. Yeah. Well, Mark from Vaughn is going to start us off then.
Okay.
There's no outcome for the Angle storyline that would have been a grand slam, but I don't mind Jordan and at least Dixie isn't involved. It's a shame American Alpha didn't get a real opportunity because they would have been great for the tag team division. Question, how high would your match quality expectations be for a potential four-way with Brock, Braun, Joe, and Roman? These guys are all hard-hitting, intense performers, and I think it could end up as a memorable match in SummerSlam history if given 20 minutes. The build would be awesome too. Remember last year, I think I had this as one of my matches of the year. They did a four-way, and it was for the Intercontinental title, and I think it was Cesaro, Miz, Zayn, and Owens. And I thought it was great. I thought that the way that it was put together, whoever the producer / agent was on this match should be highly praised because every interaction between each one of the performers made complete sense. And I think this has the potential to do the exact same thing.
Certainly, I agree with you. I think all four are really hot characters right now. And I'm certainly including Roman, who I think receives tremendous reaction. All of them received great reactions lately. And I think all four are showing. I mean, Brock and Joe, no doubt. I think Roman too, I would put as a very good performer. And Braun being in there with all four guys, just simply being that big and being surrounded by the four. And I think, like you said, having great producers or agents helping them book probably some great spots in that match. I actually have pretty high expectations for this match. We got a Jesse from the 6 whose views on Raw are that the hashtag angle was weird. The Enzo Cass Big Show segment was weird, and the Titus Tozawa relationship is weird. I very much like the opening segment, though. I hope they prolong the Ambrose Rollins mistrust for a while, even months, before they truly unite, if they ever do. I enjoyed the main event match and Angle. Many people are assuming that the Angle means the end of American Alpha. Do you agree? And if so, I have to rephrase a question I asked here a few weeks ago, but what on earth are they doing with their tag division? Jericho, DIY, the Golden Truth, Enzo and Cass, probably the Hype Bros, and now American Alpha? Can they not have more than 6 teams in the whole promotion? Is Vince going through one of his anti-tag phases again?
Yeah, he's the Eric Bischoff anti-tag. Where there's no tag teams, if you're going to do a tag team match, there's just 2 wrestlers that are put together. Because you're right. I mean, Enzo and Cass breaking up, Golden Truth breaking up. Hype Bros do look like they're going that way in American Alpha as well. Yeah,
but to be fair, like the Golden Truth and the Hype Bros, I guess you weren't really achieving much with those teams anyway.
Well, Hype Bros was just put back together after Ryder returned from the injury, and now it looks like you're going to have have Raleigh go heel, I think.
But you can argue that the reason they put them back together was to set up a turn.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I mean, I think you've always heard the rumor that Vince sees more value in single stars and simply can't really, help himself from splitting these teams up. I think he just sees these big men like Cass and I guess Jason Jordan to an extent as the bigger man of the team, and he sees more potential in them as single stars than he does in their tag team roles, which you can argue that, they've kind of run their course, but I wouldn't even say so, especially in the case of American Alpha. But
hey, Enzo and Cass never won the tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they deserved a run.
Yeah, I thought so too. What somebody posted
people are fucking with Jason Jordan's Wikipedia at this point, and someone posted up the Wikipedia. But next up, we get one here. Man, did the WWE drop the ball on the Angle? I just like how Angle has caught on since I pushed it last night. That's great. The perfect candidate for an illegitimate child is Paige. There's enough material there to fill dozens of episodes. That would have been a gold medal storyline. All right, thank you.
Yeah, don't know if that will ever happen. Okay.
It's more likely for Paige to have an illegitimate child.
Oh. I actually rewatched the movie. Jeremy says, I actually rewatched the movie Watchmen yesterday. It holds up. And the Dean line, his brothers had his back. They stood for something. But Rollins, he doesn't even know him. It is almost like the line Rorschach says to Night Owl. Personally, I think that would be an awesome change in character for Ambrose. Never compromise, not even in the face of Armageddon. A serious vigilante. Okay. A serious vigilante. Tonight was a good serious build. Bar Steely Dan. And it's the Dean we wanted after the Shield break. I don't want to see comedic Dean ever again.
So wait, is this person saying that Dean tonight was serious?
Yeah.
Is he being sarcastic?
I would say that in comparison to the Dean Ambrose, who was, I guess, at Mohegan Sun wearing kind of the cowboy hats and eating snacks from the casino, this was very serious Dean Ambrose, I guess.
Okay. This is still garbage, Dean Ambrose.
His question is, do you think 205 Live and potentially the new women's shows should have a GM? I thought about it the other day and was wondering who was actually running 205 Live. I don't think they should have. I don't think any show needs a GM.
Yeah, GMs are overdone. No, thank you. First off, I want to congratulate second-generation superstar Jason Angle on his new roster signing. Seriously, I was laughing through the whole segment. I mean, it was like cringeworthy mixed with chuckles, mixed with, I can't believe I watched this stuff. I watched the post-show interview, and Jason Angle couldn't say much without grinning or laughing. Whatever, I like it. I'll be honest. I can't wait for Brock Lesnar versus Jason Angle at WrestleMania 35 with Pops in his corner.
Well, they changed his name. Jason Angle.
Jason Jordan Angle.
Yeah, I don't like it. Finally, Michael from Orange County. No wonder they were having Chad Gable compete alone the last couple weeks. It was another tag team split the WWE planned. As someone earlier mentioned, they didn't really achieve all their potential as a tag team, but I am interested to see where the angle goes. It doesn't look likely as Roman is in another storyline, but I hope they keep the Full Shield reunion for something much bigger later on, and not against the Miz Taraj. Question, do you think Angle's reveal leads to an Angle versus Jason Jordan match down the line instead of the rumored Triple H match?
I don't know.
I mean, I could see that. I mean,
Are you interested in that? I mean, I'm not interested in Triple H versus Angle. I'm not interested in this either. Back in the day when Rusev was really on his run, I wanted to see Angle return and face Rusev to do the American thing, but then they slotted Cena into that role.
No, Jordan at this point, I mean, he was part of a mid-card tag team, so he's nowhere near ready. I feel like, though, I'd rather see him against a fresh opponent than Triple H. And who knows, maybe where Jason Jordan will be at the end of this whole storyline. But I think you're right, though. There are plenty of other choices if you want to headline a Kurt Angle versus blank match. But this is what I could see them doing, though.
What? Doing what? Angle versus Jordan?
Yeah.
Oh.
What else would be the end game?
If it's a scam, if it's all a scam that's planned out, maybe. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to any of this. Let's just stick with them. The main event seems like it's going to be great at SummerSlam. Let's focus on that because this Angle's garbage.
Well, Jay, always a pleasure, and I'm sure you enjoyed this as much as I did. I'm sure there's nothing you'd rather be doing on a Monday night than talking about Raw.
I always enjoy my quality time with you.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah, we have nice times together. This is the first. We don't even talk about wrestling most of the time. Normally, we're setting up camera gear and shooting television shows together.
It is kind of true. What do you have to plug? Come on, I feel like we know all your wrestling things, but I think there's a whole world of Jason Agnew out there that people don't know about.
Well, if you find me on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of pictures from Boston this week because I'm going there in 2 days to see the Blue Jays play the Red Sox.
Really?
I'm going to go to Fenway Park with our friend Justin, and I are going to go on a trip to Boston.
Oh.
And maybe, I don't know if he's listening, but we might see our friend Martin Foster in Boston as well.
Lovely.
Yep.
You are actually one of the few people that I think are still talking about the Blue Jays. I see you at a ton of Jays games all the time.
I enjoyed the Blue Jays, and I know they're done. I know they won tonight. That's what you pulled me away from tonight, was watching the Jays game. So I managed to watch them both at the same time.
How far back are they from like?
I think it's 5.5 out of the second wild card and 9.5 out of winning their division.
Okay, that's pretty far.
Oh, it's toast.
But
it's done.
But 5.5 isn't that far, is it?
There's just a lot of teams in between them and the wild card spot, the second wild card spot. It's not happening this year, and apparently they're going to keep the nucleus the same for next year as well. So there's not going to be a fire sale, everybody, for the people listening in Toronto who care about the Jays.
Well, Jay, I want to thank you again for bailing us out and doing the show with me. Tomorrow, I have Alex Greenfield from MLW on this review of SmackDown. Actually, not tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll get that on Wednesday. But then also...
You have less to watch?
I have half an hour less to watch, and I'm actually a little disappointed.
Not the half hour. I wouldn't want to give that half hour up.
Like, Talking Smack was always the easiest show to watch of that day, obviously, and I would sometimes even just watch it as I would kind of get ready for bed, just because I can just leave it on in the background. I don't have to watch it. I can just listen to it. I will be watching 205 Live, the 2 out of 3 Falls match, and I'm told that Alex Greenfield will be a trooper and he will watch it as well. So you guys will get that show on Wednesday. What's next this week? What's on What's Next? It's
going to be Bartender Dave and Braden because I won't be here.
Okay. All right. Do you know what's going on this week on NXT?
on NXT. Yeah, what is it? Killian Dane versus Drew Galloway, I think.
Okay.
Or Drew McIntyre. Yeah, and so the winner of that gets Bobby Roode at TakeOver Brooklyn.
So you can stay tuned for that. Also, that is what is currently on the feed right now. A very surprising appearance from John Pollock, the returning John Pollock. First podcast as a father. And of course, what can possibly take him away from a newborn but the G1? It is the first day of the G1, and John is already watching it and recording a show from the inside of his car in a parking lot.
Is that what he did?
That's what he did, I guess.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
you know, he's
don't want a baby crying in the background,
yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, exactly. So he had to sneak in, and he just had to get this out. The man's got many thoughts about, especially the G1. Had to get them out. So I think we'll be getting plenty of those, or at least intermittent versions of those in the weeks to come. So please do check those out. Follow us at Law Radio, Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. See you later.
He has all three eyes. He's just like his father.
There is a shocking resemblance between the two.
I know
of
he's a
you.
good-looking kid.